This is my 2004 Nissan Maxima parts car, and what I'm trying to do here is pull as many parts as I can out of the interior because I'm trying to get it out of my driveway to bring in a new project. As you can see, I already have some of the interior taken out, so today I'm going to be removing the door panels and the driver and passenger seat. How I ended up with the parts car was that I originally have a 2004 Nissan Maxima 6-speed, and I saw that it was becoming harder to just find parts. I'd go on Facebook Marketplace, I couldn't find anything. I would check the junkyards and they're so overpriced now, so it was just becoming difficult to find anything for the car. So I was on Facebook Marketplace one day and I saw this car and I couldn't pass it up. I actually got the car for $700, and when you think about how much it costs to actually get all these individual pieces, it was a steal. So I went and picked up the car and had it brought to my house. And another reason why I decided to get this car, besides it being so cheap, is that it had the Nissan Maxima Elite package. And what that was, it was only offered between 2004 and 2005. And it had rear bucket seats. It replaced the traditional rear bench, and on top of that it added heated rear seats and a power rear sunshade. And the whole package cost between $35 to almost $5,000 as an add-on trim for the Maxima. So it wasn't real popular, and that's why you don't really see them a lot, because of that extra cost. So a lot of these parts that I'm pulling today, I'm just gonna have as spare parts just in case anything goes bad on my project car. One thing that I am disappointed about the car is that it does have a blown engine. It looks like the head gasket went out, so the oil is all milky, but at the end of the day, it still has I could still pull the sensors, the injectors off the car, the alternator. There's a lot of parts that if I did have to go to the junkyard and get, it would be super expensive, or if I had to go out and purchase it from an auto parts store. So it's good to have these additional parts so that I could use it on my actual car. For the most part, Nissans are pretty reliable, but it also cuts down on that turnaround time of actually having the parts instead of having to go out and find them, or if you do find them, somebody wants to you're asking too much money for it, or having to dig through the junkyard to pull the parts yourself. I would say even though the engine is blown, it's not a total loss because I can still tear down the engine and use it. I still have an extra block at the end of the day that I could use and rebuild it for that. So at this point, I started working on the front seats. I already had most of the car disconnected, so the interior doesn't have power, so I couldn't move the seats back and forth. Disconnecting the seat and all the wires is pretty straightforward. On these 6th gens, I believe they're the same as the 5th gen, so they have 2 bolts in the front and then 1 on the side, on the right side, and 2 on the left side. So I used the long extension to get to that bolt on the side, and I was able to get it loose and started pulling the rest of the seat out. Typically, I just tip the seat back and then it gives me access to the wires. The wires are pretty straightforward. It's just, you just disconnect the wires, and the yellow wire is always the airbag wire. So if the power is connected, I would say definitely be careful with that. I moved on to the driver's seat, and that side was a little bit difficult because it wasn't reclined the same way as the passenger seat. So what I had to do is open up the trim piece for the seat and use the same extension to get down to the bolt that was there. It perfectly lined up, and then I just used a ratchet to take the bolt out. Once I had that out, I just took out the remainder of the 4 bolts and I was good to go. I'm still contemplating whether or not I should actually keep the interior harness for the car. I probably will, but it all comes down to how much space I actually have left over in my shed for the parts that I'm actually going to be putting in there. I'll probably still keep it, but we'll see. I'm actually going to be using these seats in another Maxima project that I have. So you can take the newer 6th gen seats and use them in a older Maxima. It does require some modification, but all 3 of the bolts bolt up, and then the last bracket on the back, you have to take the bracket off of the 4th gen seat and then install it on the 6th gen seat or the 2004 Maxima. One thing I do like is how the 6th gen, it has this spot in underneath the seat or in front of the seat where all the wires and sensors got tucked away. So on the previous Maximas, all that stuff would just be thrown underneath the seat. But this is pretty cool how it gets covered over and you don't have to worry about, it's just easy access to get to the wires. Honestly, this is something I would recommend if you do have an older car, to find a parts car instead of trying to source individual pieces for the car. It just makes it so much easier and cheaper in the long run than having to go out and try to find every individual piece. Granted, depending upon the age of the car, it sometimes may not be practical to buy a whole car, but it's always something to consider. And this is what it looks like with everything removed. I got the dash out, the trim pieces, the seats, the rear deck, the panels. So next steps would be working on the engine bay and pulling the engine and transmission.